Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to this week's episode of The Quarterdeck. This week's going to be a little bit different. Yes, we are back in our portable studio now, and we have a little setup that we're able to go ahead and continue with our podcast. I'll go ahead and continue with you guys the update of what's going on with the reconstruction of the house and see how far it's actually become. This week in our hero highlights, we're going to take a look at Sergeant Ross F. Gray and what he did to earn himself that Congressional Medal of Honor.
Drop and give me 25. I'm the gunny.
It's time for the gunny.
The Quarterdeck. Lights. Get online right now. You got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello, my bunch of knuckle-dragging, beer-drinking, hard-charging devil dogs. You're listening to The Quarterdeck. I am your host, Miguel, the Gunny Signs.
Get off the bus!
I do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
The Quarterdeck. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of The Quarterdeck, and I got some great news for everybody today. I am officially back in a temporary studio. I was able to get most of my equipment back, and I'm able to actually record the podcast in higher quality for you guys. So I can't tell you guys how excited I am that I was actually able to get my microphones, and I did upgrade though. I upgraded to the Rode Procaster 2. And I got to tell you guys, if you guys are into this podcasting or any recording or just streaming videos live, oh my goodness, upgrade it. It's worth the upgrade because the things that it can do, it is truly, truly, truly amazing. And, so it's awesome that I'm able to do this, even though I am in the living room. And so the sound quality is pretty good, but I got to make sure that everybody is kind of quiet to ensure that I get some decent recordings here. And hopefully once we're back in the house, I am going to have my own designated office, and the walls will be insulated to allow it to be a little quieter and the sounds from the other part of the house not to come into the studio. So what should I get into? Let's talk about the update on what's going on. So the last time that we talked about, and it was about 2 weeks ago that we did an actual podcast because, man, just so many things are going on. So we sat down and had an actual meeting with the architect this week and went over the finalizing of all of the plans of the things that we're planning on doing. Now, of course, we're going to go ahead and do the complete reconstruction of the outside of the house. Everything that's going to be covered by the insurance and everything, and all the walls inside that are going to be redone. But we are deciding to go ahead and move a couple of the walls around. So we're going to go ahead and close off our bathroom that we had in the middle, which is my son's bathroom. We're going to go ahead and close that off and incorporate that into his room, which is going to be extended a little bit. So he's going to have a bigger room. So he's going to have his own little suite bathroom in his bedroom. That's going to lead into a walk-in closet that is going to go out into the garage to where I used to have my studio out there in the extra room in the garage, which is good because he's going to be allowed to have a bigger room. And now that he's growing up and he's going to be a teenager, he needs a little bit more space. But the little knucklehead is going to have a humongous walk-in closet for him to be able to go into and hang up all his clothes. Now, like I told him, him and me, we don't have a lot of clothes. We're guys. We don't like to go shopping. We just have some clothes. Get us one shirt, one pair of shorts, some underwear for each day of the single week, and we're happy. We can change through that every single week, and we're going to be happy and content with our life. Now, when I talk about my wife, it's a whole different story. We know how women love to shop. They love to shop and everything. So our closet is also going to be extended into the main living room that was in our home when you walked in. So that's going to be kind of split in half, that whole room area. Half of it is going to be the walk-in closet for the actual master bedroom. And the other half is going to be my studio or my office where I'm going to be able to do my recording of my podcast and everything else that I want to do and stuff in there in that room. So that's a win for me because I'm still going to be able to have a designated space that is completely dedicated to me being able to do some little minor things that I can still do around the house and continue to do the podcast here every single week and continue to give you guys updates and stuff. Okay, so along with that, since they're closing off that room, Now it's going to be a hallway that's going to be coming into the house. So you come in from the front door, it's going to be a hallway, maybe about a 4.5 foot or 5 foot, close to 6 walkway that's going to lead into the house. With, of course, the door to the office is going to be to the left, and then you go all the way in, and then it's going to lead into the kitchen. Now, my wife's kitchen. Here's another thing that she's going to be updating there. Of course, all the cabinetry and everything had to be torn down and got thrown away. So all that is going to have to be replaced on all the kitchen cabinets, the appliances, the refrigerator, the stove, the microwave, the dishwasher, all those things. Now, for those of you guys that have seen our home in some of the videos that we have on YouTube, but let me give you guys a visual for those of you that really have never seen it. In our kitchen, as soon as you walk in, all the stove and the cabinetry are along the back wall. And there you have some cabinet and you actually have some countertop space that you have there, and then you have the stove and then the microwave directly on top. So it's one of those kind of little combo things that they have, and the ventilation goes all the way up to the roof. And then you have some more counter space, then you have the refrigerator, and that's just kind of there, and it kind of sticks out a little bit from the counter spaces. And then on the opposite side of the wall, there is some cabinets on top and on bottom with some more counter space, and then an island in the middle there that is about I want to say it's about a 15-foot island by 4 foot wide. So it's a huge island. And my wife likes having that. And the sink is actually incorporated there into the island directly behind where the stove is at. So that is going to be getting rebuilt. The same size my wife wants and everything. But this time she wants a waterfall island. And for those of you guys that don't understand what a waterfall island is, all that simply is that whatever the countertop is made out of, whether it's, I'm having a brain for it. All that stuff you put on top of the cabinets, you put it on there, whether it's granite or whatever you decide to put on there, it's going to fall down through the sides as well. And, give it more of an aesthetic look, as my wife calls it, and more elegant and more up to date and all this stuff. I don't know about decorating, so she has that idea and she's working that with the architect, and so that's going to be a change in that part there. So we'll just see, how we incorporate that into there. Now let's flip around and look back at the stove area. Now the stove area, my wife's going to go ahead and remove the refrigerator from where it's located at and move it against the wall that's all the way to the left to where it was just cabinets and stuff there. The pantry that is there in the corner, that's going to get removed. So that's going to be completely gone out of the way. So the refrigerator is going to be along the line directly from the cabinet area from the wall where the stove is at. So it's going to be directly like a straight line into that stuff. And then the fridge is going to be built into some cabinets right there with more cabinets on the side and countertop, counter space, everything like that. So she wants cabinets top to bottom, pretty much going up the wall. That's where she wants all the cabinets, and that's going to be the whole entire kitchen. Now, the thing is that our cabinets right now, they were like a dark chocolate brown. Now, she is going to go all white. She wants an all white kitchen with the counters and everything white. So it's a more updated look. So that'll be something that she wanted. I think she wanted that from the get-go when we actually first built the house, but she wasn't able to actually get that done. And as far as the granite goes, she wants a white with maybe a couple little veins or something like that, but she wants it as white as possible. So it looks nice and everything goes like that. Now, to get into the stove. We have a little stove that was like the little standard size stove, but now she wants a 48-inch stove. So basically like a chef style stove, which every day she always threatens my son and I about saying that she's going to stop cooking, that she doesn't want to cook anymore, and blah, 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 all this and that. Now, let me remind you guys, my wife is a Mexican woman. Mexican women love to cook. So like I told her, you want a 48-inch stove. There is no way, absolutely no way, that you're going to stop cooking. I told her that vocabulary and those thoughts need to get out of your brain housing group right now. And you cannot say that anymore. And my son is the exact same way. He said, no, you cannot stop cooking till you're 500 years old. So yes, definitely I told her if we get a bigger stove, hey, there's going to be more room to cook and stuff. So we're going to get some more yummy and delicious food. But of course, she always says it's going to be healthy because we're going to start eating a little bit more healthier to make sure that we have more of a healthy diet in our stuff every single day. Okay, so we got all that. The kitchen, all that stuff's going to be done. The living room is going to be the same. Our bedroom is going to be the same. The guest bedroom in the back is going to be the same. So luckily, when they went through the whole entire thing, the engineer came to the house and they looked at all the walls and everything. So they were able to determine which walls they can save and where they can actually save us money. Now that they've already got everything cleared out of the house, yesterday I went down there yesterday, and the garage is completely torn down. It's gone. You can see directly into the house, into the trestles and everything, and they got everything else boarded up so that way nobody can go inside of the house. But the next step that they started today was that I can hear them, because remember, we rented the house directly behind our house. So we're able to actually see them with the construction and walk over there and see exactly what they're doing for the day. So they started to remove all the tile from the floor, all the electrical wiring, the plumbing, the gas pipes, everything, all that's going to get redone brand new. So all that's being removed. And then once they do that, they're trying to finish everything off by tomorrow. And then next week, go ahead and start in taking the whole roof off. So all the trestles, the tile, the shingles, the solar panels, everything on top is going to come off. And once that is done, they're already going to have the trestles already built and everything to re-put them back on and put a new roof back onto the house. And then the whole process of finishing the interior will go ahead and start. And the architect told us that it will be approximately around 3 to 4 months once they get the roof back on, that they will have everything completed and done. And we should be back in our home sometime mid-November, mid-December timeframe around there, back into our house with everything done. So all we're waiting now is for the final plans to be done. They're going to submit those to the city, and then they will go ahead and start with the actual reconstruction process of our home. So, I can't, tell you guys, how excited we are, because I know my son is ready to get back to our house. He's ready to get back into his room so he can be more comfortable and, feel better in our own house. And once we get back in there, it's going to be nice to be back in our home. But, most of all, we are going to be together. We're all going to be together back in our home, safe, and be able to start rebuilding everything that we had in our house and be able to actually, replace everything that we lost in our home. But, like I always say, those are material things. Those things can be replaced. And, I just want to remind you guys, get your home insurance. Get your renter's insurance. Man, I never thought that, it'd be worth me getting the insurance that I had. And I always make sure that I got the insurance policy so that it covered more than what it would cost for them to rebuild a home or for me to replace the things that I had inside of the home. And boy, am I glad that I did that now. Because, luckily we have our insurance company. And I got to give a big shout out to USAA. Oh my gosh. They have been great. They have been outstanding, helping us deal with everything from day one. 2 days after the whole incident happened, they were on site, getting inspections done, getting everything done for an estimate to get everything completed for us so we can get the rebuilding process done as soon as possible. So it was very easy process, and man, I can't say more than enough about them and the things that they've done for us. So that's the update. That's what's going on with our process of us rebuilding the house. And, every week I'll go ahead and continue, guys, and let you guys know the update and everything. And, I am kind of upset at the fact that, we are doing our hero highlights. We're able to go back into our history where we're talking about the 1st Marine Division and, what they did in Iraq in 2003 and all that stuff. And I'm kind of bummed out because that book was completely destroyed in the fire. I pulled it out and I set it outside because it was soaking wet to hopefully that it dries out so I am able to continue reading the book and covering the whole story with you guys. But it's looking like it's going to be an impossible mission to accomplish because I went over there right now and all the pages are stuck. They're completely stuck together, so I cannot open the book without ripping the pages or anything like that. But on a good note, I did find another copy of the book. I found some on eBay, and I found the paperback copy on Amazon, which I'm going to go ahead and order so we can go ahead and get back on track and continue our story with the 1st Marine Division so we can continue to see the progress on everything that occurred during that time frame in 2003. And of course, it helps me to relive my moments because I was there on the ground doing the same thing that all those Marines were doing during that time. So yeah, so that's the update. That's what's going on. And then here's to keeping you guys updated to what's going on in the next couple of months to allow us to go ahead and be back into our home. Are you looking for a photographer who can capture the most important moments in your life? Look no further than Miguel Sainz Photography. Miguel Saenz is an award-winning photographer with a passion for capturing the beauty and emotions of weddings, family portraits, and special events. With years of experience and a creative eye, Miguel Saenz will create stunning images that you'll treasure for years to come. Whether you're looking for a traditional wedding album, a unique family portrait, or a professional headshot for your business, Miguel Saenz Photography has the expertise to bring your vision to life. From the initial consultation to the final product, Miguel Saenz will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your images reflect your unique style and personality. Don't settle for mediocre photographs that simply document an event. Trust Miguel Saenz Photography to create timeless images that capture the essence of your special moments. Book your session today and experience the magic of Miguel Saenz Photography. Visit Miguel Saenz Photography online at miguelsciencephotography.com to see examples of his work and schedule your appointment today.
What we're gonna do right here is go back. Way back into time.
In our history look today, since we are unable to go ahead and continue our story in our book with the 1st Marine Division in 2003, no greater friend, no worst enemy, due to the fire that occurred in the house. But I have good news. I have found the book again, and I'm going to go ahead and order it from Amazon. So here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to go ahead and be able to continue our story to follow the 1st Marine Division in their journey from deployment in 2003 into Iraq and eventually making it all the way to Baghdad to secure the victory down there in Iraq. But this week, we're going to go ahead and start looking back at some of the history of some of the things regarding the Marine Corps. Now, everybody knows that in the Marine Corps, more than any other branch of service, military history is very important because we embrace that history as our own. Because of those individuals that have come before us is the reason the Marines do what they do today. Now, we're going to look at Louis Chesty Puller. Yes, oh, good old Chesty. And I know everybody's heard about Chesty Puller, but, you know, it's always a great day when you're able to actually talk about such a hero and the things that he did. Because by all means, he is by far the most well-known Marine in Marine Corps history. Now, beginning in boot camp, you know, every Marine is actually educated on the Corps, you know, the proud, the stories and the past, and we learn everything as much as we can of our prestigious organization. In this spirit of value in Marine Corps in history, we're going to go into and talk about this great and outstanding Marine. Now, Marines are known for always being faithful. We never give up. We're hard chargers. And perhaps no Marine better exemplifies these many traits that there are of the Marine Corps than Louis Chesty Puller. He is the most decorated Marine in the history of the Marine Corps and the only American service member to have been awarded the nation's second highest military award for valor 6 times. Chesty Puller, he was born in West Point, Virginia. Coincidence, right? On June 26th of 1898. To Matthew and Martha Puller. He grew up listening to Civil War veterans telling their stories of their time in the war, and Thomas Stonewall Jackson was his idol. In 1916, he did try to enlist in the United States Army to fight in the border war against Mexico. Unfortunately, he was too young to be able to enlist, and his mother said, "Hell no, I am not going to sign for you and allow you to join the Army." So then in 1917, he began attending the Virginia Military Institute. He left that school in 1918 and he enlisted in the Marine Corps, hoping but not achieving his goal of seeing action during World War I. Now, following the conclusion of World War I, then Corporal Puller, he received orders to serve in Haiti as a lieutenant training the newly formed Gendarmerie de Haiti in Contributory Force that basically consisted of Haitian enlisted personnel and Marine officers. Now, he served in this capacity from 1919 to 1924, at which he returned to the United States and received his commission as a second lieutenant. Now, after completing this assignment at the Marine Barracks in Norfolk, Virginia, the Basic School in Quantico, Virginia, and the 10th Marine Artillery Regiment in Quantico, Virginia. The Basic School in Quantico, Virginia is where the officers are trained, and he had the opportunity to actually go there and do the training for all these young officers. Now, Puller was then assigned to the barracks at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and this was around 1926, where he served for 2 years before he was assigned to San Diego, California in 1928. Now, looking into December of 1928, he was sent to Nicaragua, where he served with the Nicaraguan National Guard detachment fighting rebels that were led by Augusto Sandino during his time down there in Nicaragua. Puller then earned the first of his 5 Navy Crosses for his actions from February 16th to August 19th of 1930. This is where he led 5 successive engagements against superior numbers of armed bandit forces. One human being, my goodness. He then returned to the United States, which was in 1931, and then he completed a year-long company officer's course at Fort Benning, Georgia. And after completing this course, he returned to Nicaragua in the late 1932s, where he earned his 2nd Navy Cross for leading the Americans and Nicaraguan National Guardsmen into battle against Sandinista rebels in the last major battle of the Sandino Rebellion near El Sauce on December 26th of 1932. Now, following this time in Nicaragua, he was then assigned to the Marine Detachment in Beijing, China. And there he commanded the unit of China Marines, the U.S. Marines that were stationed there in China. And after serving there in China, he served aboard the USS Augusta, which is a cruiser in the Asiatic Fleet that was commanded at the time by then a Captain Chester W. Nimitz. He then returned to the States in June of 1936, and there he served as an instructor at the basic school in Philadelphia before he returned to Augusta in 1939 as commander of the onboard Marine Detachment. Then he was assigned to serve with his Marines on the Augusta. They sailed to China, disembarked in Shanghai in May of 1940. While there for a second time, he served as an executive officer and the commanding officer for the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 2-4, until August of 1941. Then he was a major. Then he returned to the United States later that month, and after a short leave period, he was given command of the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1-7, of the 1st Marine Division that was stationed in New River, North Carolina, which later became known as Camp Lejeune. During the early days of the World War II in the Pacific Theater, Puller's 7th Marines formed the core of the newly created 3rd Marine Brigade and the battalion that arrived in Samoa to defend the island from the Japanese forces in the early May of 1942. Later on that summer, the 7th Marines, they were deployed from their brigade, and in early September, they left Samoa, then rejoining the 1st Marine Division at Guadalcanal later on that month. And then shortly after arriving in Guadalcanal, he led his battalion to a fierce fighting along the Matancahue River. During that engagement, 3 of Puller's companies were surrounded and cut off by American forces by Japanese troops. Puller ran to the shore, singled a U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Monsen, and directed the ship to provide covering fire while landing craft rescued the surrounding Marines. Now, during this rescue, the U.S. Coast Guard signalman First Class Douglas Albert Monroe, he was the officer in charge of the group landing craft, was killed while providing covering fire for the Marines and was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions, making him first and to date the only Coast Guardsman to receive this decoration. So Puller's quick thinking and organizing the rescue saved the 3 companies and earned Puller the Bronze Star with a Combat V. In Guadalcanal, a little bit time later, he earned his 3rd Navy Cross in what was later known as the Battle of Henderson Field. Now, during this engagement, Puller commanded the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, who, alongside with the 3rd Battalion of the U.S. Army's 164th Infantry Regiment, defended Henderson Field against a regiment-strength Japanese force. In a firefight that lasted more than 3 hours on the night of October 24th to 25th in 1942, the 1-7 and 3 164 sustained 70 casualties. This is while the Japanese suffered more than 1,400 troops that were killed in action, and the Americans held that airfield. Now, for their actions during this battle, Puller nominated 2 of his men, one of whom was Sergeant John Basilone, for the Medal of Honor. Just over 2 weeks later, on November 9th, Puller was wounded himself. And then following his time in Guadalcanal, he was made the executive officer of the 7th Marine Regiment. While serving in this capacity at Camp Gloucester, New Guinea, he was awarded his 4th Navy Cross for overall performance of duty between late December of 1943 and mid-January of 1944. He was then promoted to colonel, which was effective on February 1st of 1944, and by the end of the month, he had already been named commander of the 1st Marine Regiment in September and October of 1944. He led the 1st Marine Regiment in the Battle of Peleliu, which is one of the bloodiest battles in Marine Corps history, and received the first of his 2 Legions of Merit award. In November of 1944, he returned to the United States and was named the executive officer of the Infantry Training Regiment at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Less than a month later, he was named the commanding officer, and after the conclusion of World War II, he was made the director of the 8th Reserve District in New Orleans, Louisiana, and later commanded the Marine Barracks at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The Korean War and later Marine Corps career timeframe came along. So when the Korean War broke out, Puller was once again assigned as the commanding officer of the 1st Marine Regiment. And on September 15th of 1950, Puller and his Marines took part in the landing at Incheon, for which Puller was awarded the Silver Star for his overall leadership from September 15th to November 2nd of 1950. He was awarded a 2nd Legion of Merit Award, and Puller was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross by the United States Army for heroism in his actions from November 29th to December 4th. And there he received his 5th Navy Cross for heroism for his actions during the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir. And this was during December 5th through the 10th of 1950. And it was during the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir that he uttered the famous quote, "We've been looking for the enemy for some time now. We finally found him. We're surrounded." That simplifies things. It's just like Chesty Puller for the outstanding things that he always said, especially to his Marines, to motivate them and get him ready for the fight. In January of 1951, this is when Puller was promoted to the rank of Brigadier General, and he was assigned to serve as the Assistant Division Commander of the 1st Marine Division. In late February of that year, he was the immediate supervisor, Major General O.P. Smith, was transferred to the Command 9 Corps when its commanding officer, Major General Bryant Moore, died, leaving Puller in temporary command of the 1st Marine Division until March. And he completed his tour of duty as the assistant commander and left Korea to return back to the United States in May. And once he returned from Korea, he took command of that 3rd Marine Division at Camp Pendleton, California until the end of 1952, and he then served as the assistant commander of the division until June 1952. So then he took over Troop Training Unit Pacific at Coronado, California in September of 1953. He was promoted then to Major General. And in July of 1954, he assumed command of the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, into February of 1955. When he became the deputy camp commander, this is 1955 now, he suffered a stroke, and he was retired from the Marine Corps on November 1st of 1955. Now, following his death in 1971, he was posthumously promoted to lieutenant general. You know, throughout these decades of service and fearless leadership, Louis Chesty Puller, he commanded his status as the Marine Corps icon. In addition to his many awards, he received numerous additional honors that included the frigate Louis B. Puller, that was named after him, the headquarters building for 2nd Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team in Yorktown Naval Weapons Station in Yorktown, Virginia, and Route 33 in Middlesex County, Virginia, named after him. In November of 2005, the United States Postal Service issued a Distinguished Marine Stamp in which Chesty Puller, he was honored with Daniel J. Daly, John Basilone, and John A. Lejeune. Now, in 2012, the Military Sealift Command announced that the mobile landing platform was to be named after Puller. He was designated as USNS Louis B. Puller. So this former Marine barracks in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, the officers' quarters, included this historic home affectionately known as the Chesty Puller House, in honor of him, which he lived there during 1948 to 1950. Now, in addition to that, the Marine Corps mascot is perpetually named Chesty Pullerton. You know, now they're at Chesty the 13th. He is always a purebred English bulldog, and the common saying in the Marine Corps boot camp includes ending one saying by "Good night, Chesty Puller," wherever you are. Another common encouragement is Chesty's puller never quits. In both boot camp and the officer candidate school, Canis Marines chant, if it's good for Chesty Puller, then it's good enough for me. As well as tell Chesty Puller I did my best. And recruits also sing Chesty Puller was a good Marine, and a good Marine was he. Now, while doing pull-ups, Marines sometimes encourage each other to do one more for Chesty. So each year, Marine Corps detachments from Fort Lee, Virginia, they run 66 miles from Fort Lee to Puller's grave at Church Christ Cemetery in Saluda, Virginia. All of this in Chesty Puller's honor. Hero highlight. This week in our hero highlights, we take a look at the heroism of Sergeant Ross F. Gray of the United States Marine Corps. Ross Franklin Gray was born in Marble Valley, Alabama on 1 August of 1920. He attended the elementary school of Bibb County and went on to Centerville High School, which he left in 1939 after 3 years in attendance. He went to work for his father as a carpenter. He had already worked at that trade part-time for 3 years and now worked another 3 years before he enlisted into the Marine Corps Reserve. He played football, basketball at Centerville High School and enjoyed hunting and fishing. He was a devout Protestant. In fact, his buddies in the Marine Corps called him the Deacon. He enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserve in Birmingham, Alabama on 22 July 1942 and was assigned to active duty the same day. After receiving his recruit training at Parris Island, South Carolina, he went to New River, North Carolina, and in September joined the 23rd Marines, 4th Marine Division. Promoted to Private First Class in April of 1943, he was transferred to Company A, 1st Battalion, 25th Marines a month later. Private First Class Gray left for overseas duty on 13 January 1944 and landed in Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands, where he took part in the Roy Namor campaign. He was made an engineering corporal in March, and in June made another assault landing, this time in Saipan. At the conclusion of the fighting in Saipan, Corporal Gray took part in the landing of Tinan Island, also in the Marinas. Promoted to sergeant in August, he attended the 4th Marine Division Mine and Booby Trap School, upon completion of which he was rated qualified to instruct troops in the laying of minefields, the reconnaissance of enemy minefields day and night, the location, neutralization, disarming, and removal of mines, the neutralization of the booby trap mines, and the day and night clearance of lanes through minefields, examined, found, and qualified for promotion to the rank of Staff Sergeant. Sergeant Gray, due to the lack of openings for the rate in his organization, was never promoted to the 3rd pay grade. On 21 February 1945, 2 days after D-Day on Iwo Jima, Sergeant Gray was acting platoon sergeant of the Company A's platoon, which had been held up by a sudden barrage of Japanese hand grenades in the Arthurina northeast of Airfield No. 1. Promptly withdrawing his platoon out of the range of the grenades, he moved forward to recounter. He ascertained the advance and was held up by a series of enemy emplacements connected by covered communication trenches and fronted by a minefield. Through a hail of enemy small arms fire, Sergeant Gray cleared a path through the minefield up to the mouth of one of the fortifications, then returned to his own lines, where with 3 volunteers he went back to the battalion dump and acquired 12 satchel charges. Placing these in the deflated area with his platoon, he took one weighing 24 pounds and, covered by 3 volunteers, advanced up the path he had cleared and threw the charge into the enemy position, sealing it. Immediately brought under fire from a machine gun in another opening of the same position, Sergeant Gray returned to the defiliated spot, obtained another charge, returned to the position, and completely destroyed it. Spotting another emplacement, he went through the minefield for the 7th and 8th time to get another charge and destroy another enemy stronghold. He continued this one-man attack all the time under heavy small arms fire and grenade barrage until he had destroyed 6 enemy positions. At one time, a Japanese grenade landed so close to him that it blew his helmet off. Throughout, he went unarmed so that he could more easily carry the charges and accessories. When he had eliminated the 6 positions, Sergeant Gray disarmed the whole minefield before returning to his platoon. Although he had remained unscratched through his 12 trips back and forth among enemy mines, constantly under heavy fire, Sergeant Gray was killed 6 days later on 27 February 1945 by an enemy shell which inflicted fatal wounds in his legs. For his personal valor, daring tactics, and tenacious perseverance in the face of extreme peril, on 21 February, Sergeant Gray was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor by President Harry S. Truman. The coveted award was presented to the hero's father by Rear Admiral A.S. Merrill, United States Navy, then Commandant of the 8th Naval District, at the football field in Centerville High School in the presence of the Governor of the State of Alabama, Chancey Sparks, on 16 April 1946. Sergeant Gray was initially buried in the 4th Marine Division Cemetery on Iwo Jima, but later his remains were re-entered to the United States for private burial in Woodstock, Alabama.
The Quarterdeck.
If you're just joining us, this is the Quarterdeck, and thank you guys for joining us this week. And as a reminder, always reminding you that you can listen to the Quarterdeck on any of your podcasting applications, from Spotify to Apple, or simply just Google our podcast, The Quarterdeck with Gunny Signs, and you will be directed to anywhere that you're able to listen to our show. What can I say about this week? This week has been yet another adventure in our little slow process of us getting our house rebuilt, and it's going to get there. One step or another, we will be able to get there, and our house will be completed. In our hero highlight this week, we took a look at the story of Sergeant Ross F. Gray and the things that he did to earn himself that Congressional Medal of Honor. So here's to another great hero and things that you do in order to earn the nation's highest award. And lastly, we talked about Chesty Puller. Why can we not just take a moment in time and just talk about one of the greatest heroes in Marine Corps history? You go, Chesty. You're the one that did everything that you needed to do to ensure that the Marines today continue to live the legacy that you left behind for every single Marine to follow in your footsteps. So again, thank you for joining us. This is Miguel, the Gunny Signs, sounding Liberty Call.
Get off the bus!
I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States.